Hello everyone, it's Matt, another episode of Collecting Elton. Thanks for tuning in. I had the idea to sort of do just a general video about my Elton 45s because I'm excited to say after 30 years or more of collecting Elton 45s, I have finally upgraded my containers. Originally, like for years, many years, I kept my 45s, both the Eltons and the non-Eltons, in boxes like these. In fact, these are the three boxes I was using, and I think this one on the bottom, this is the oldest of the two. I'm quite fortunate, actually, that later on I was able to find two more boxes that were virtually identical, but this one's the oldest. And I've always used just cardboard boxes to store 45s. If I go back through old photos, I can see, when I see, photographs of my music collection through the years, that I always kept my 45s in boxes. Technically, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're not very sturdy. If you have a box of 45s on a table and someone spills a drink, the cardboard's going to basically soak it up. And if you don't have 45s and, some kind of protective enclosure, then that could be a bit of a problem. I've always, for the past 15 years anyway, I've kept 45s in these Mylar sleeves. Yeah, so goodbye cardboard boxes. I got these bins, these plastic bins with handles at a dollar store not far from me here. They were $3 each. I couldn't, when I measured the insides, I could see that they were perfect for 7-inch. So I've divided them. I had 3 cardboard boxes. Now I have 3 of these bins. But these actually leave a lot of room for more 45s. So it's kind of encouraging that way. My next major step will be, I've cleaned some of them. Some of these that came really, in dirty shape, dust all over them, that sort of thing. Even some of the sleeves I had to give, a very, very gentle cleaning to. But for the most part, I haven't, cleaned these or kept them as clean, as rigorously as I do my vinyl LPs or even my CDs, because I really don't play these a lot. I just find the 7-inch format in terms of sound quality really poor. I've never been that compelled by the sound. So, I get these mainly for, the fun and the fashion, for the academic value, for the fact that, Elton, in my mind, is, more of an albums artist than a singles artist. But, the singles are a big part of the story. And certainly for many years, there were the non-LP B-sides. Now we have, the Jewel Box and other collections that help us enjoy those. So my next major step will be to give a lot of these, a very thorough cleaning and get the discs into some kind of internal, soft internal sleeve, like some kind of poly sleeve. I mainly keep the 45s in the sleeves that they came in. Even if the 45 is really old, if I can see that the sleeve is fine, there's no seam split, there's no real damage, then I just leave it in there. I figure if it's been in the sleeve for 40, 50 years and the sleeve is still holding on, still doing well, it'll probably be good, at least for now. And then, but there are some sleeves that were, when I got them, they were so fragile. I think they were fragile from the very beginning, and they have seam split, that sort of thing. And in that case, I just see if I can find one here. Well, you'll eventually see an example. I put that in generic white paper sleeve and then put the disc in that sleeve behind the, whatever, the picture sleeve it is. And that's the way I store them. And again, not ideal, but it's what I'm doing for now. Right now, these bins, I just have them reasonably, evenly spread between the 3 bins. This is 1965 to 75, 75 to, I think, 82, and then 83 to... The last one is If It Wasn't for Bad. Yeah, Hey that's 2010. And then I have nothing after that. I don't think there's been anything after that. My very first 45s, all my Elton records when I was a kid they belonged to my parents. And my dad didn't have any Elton 45s. My mother had one, and it was, let's see if I can find it here. Okay, there's the picture sleeve version. That wasn't it. This was it. This was my mother's copy of Lucy in the Sky, Canadian Black Rainbow MCA, back with One Day at a Time. And so when I was a kid, this was for about a year or so the only Elton 45 I had, but I learned what a non-LP B-side was thanks to this. And I can't, I can think of very few other introductions, really good introductions to an Elton non-LP B-side. One Day at a Time is one of the best, certainly. It was certainly one of my favorites. But that was my very first one, because my mom pretty much gave it to me when I was a kid. And then after that, it was Island Girl. That's my UK Island Girl, French Island Girl, German Island Girl. That is a Canadian. This is the one. Okay. When I was about 10, 9 or 10, my aunt gave me her copy. So my mom was, when she bought Lucy in the Sky, I think she was in college. My aunt was in high school, and this was hers. And that electrical tape, MW, those are her initials. And I, usually if I can, I'll remove those things when I get 45s. I'll remove labels and things if it's not going to harm or tear. But, that's got sentimental value. That was my aunt's. Maybe not electrical tape. I think it's hockey tape, come to think. Yeah, that's hockey tape. You can see the texture. So that was my aunt. She gave me that one, and she also gave me... Is that the UK? Yeah, that's the UK. There it is. This was the other one she gave me. Don't Go Breaking My Heart. And she was, I think, she would have been about 15 when this came out. So that's her penmanship from when she was 15 years old. She got this. This is the sleeve, by the way, and the original sleeve. And she got that at Miracle Mart for $1.19. And the flip side was Snow Queen, of course. And I love Snow Queen even better than One Day at a Time. And so that was a great song to have early on in my collecting. So I had those three, and then when I started collecting Elton stuff secondhand, very first purchase I ever made, which was at Blue Streak Records in March of 1994, I got 4 LPs, and then this one I got. And so that was number 4, and then I went from there. Now, how obviously you can tell that, the basic organization scheme here is that, sorry for the shaky camera. Yeah, we go front to back. So chronologically, front to back, front to back, front to back. And then, assuming that a single was released in multiple territories at once, all at the same time, I always place whatever copies I have on whatever Elton's UK label was. I kind of think of his UK labels as his home label. Dick James was his home label when he signed to Dick James. And then for years after that, it was Rocket. So I'll always begin with the Rocket copies. And then if I have any other Rocket copies, but in other territories, I'll follow after that with those. And then once I have all those DJM or Rocket copies, then I'll go back, and then we'll do the North American copies. American copies first, then Canadian copies. I think this is American Blues. This is a Canadian. And what's this? No, sorry, those two pictures, these are both American, these picture sleeves. And that's Canadian. Yeah. The way I physically organize this reflects sort of the way I sort through all this information in my mind. If I have multiple copies of the same single, like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is a good example. Yeah, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Like this is, if I have multiple copies of the same single, then I'll always begin with the best condition copy. And when I say multiple copies of the same single, I mean multiple copies of the same single, same label, same era, So I have, these are all DJMs. Is that, yeah, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, backed with Screw You. Charming song. Here's another copy. I think I got one online, one I got from another collector, and then this one I think I got, got from the Vinyl Boutique in Camden Town in London, England. But anyway, yeah, that's how I do it. I have sort of the best condition copy first. Picture sleeves. Picture sleeves are all original. I know some collectors that will make facsimile sleeves because They just have to have the artwork, and so they'll get a high-res scan from some other collector, print it out, make their own sleeve. I don't do that. If there was a sleeve and I don't have it, then I don't have it. I just learn to live with it. I have unis, quite a few, I think. Yeah, some unis, and most of my unis have uni sleeves with the swirl. None of those unis actually had the uni sleeves when I bought them. So I had to... There are dealers online, like sellers on eBay, that specialize just in factory sleeves for different labels. And I forget the one that I got all my uni sleeves from the same guy. I think he's in Minnesota? I think he's in Minnesota. Minnesota or Wisconsin. Somewhere where it's really north and cold, says the Canadian. But anyway, yeah, he was great. And I think I paid about $3 or $4 each per factory sleeve. And I also got some of my Congress, well, there are three Congress 45s in the Elton John catalog, and none of them, when I got them, came with Congress sleeves. So I had to go out and find them. One I got from a guy in Germany, and the other two I ended up getting from the same guy I got the uni sleeves from. And he threw them in as a bonus. He actually couldn't find anyone that wanted Congress sleeves. Because I asked him, I said, do you have any Congress sleeves? He said, yeah, I got actually 2 of them. Throw them in as a bonus. And I said, thank you, man. You're the man. So I ended up with the 3 Congress sleeves I needed. The only uni 45 I have that doesn't have one of those swirl sleeves, but it's clearly a uni sleeve, is this one. But I don't think that this, and this looks Canadian. Now, I have a number of fellow Elton John collectors in Canada that claim that, when they bought their copies of these uni singles back when they first came out, their copies came in those uni swirl sleeves, which is very, very possible. But there are also these, and I know it's Canadian because there's the Compo brand. DJM factory sleeves are a little more difficult to find. It's hard to find sellers that will sell you just the sleeves. If you're missing a DJM factory sleeve like this one, you pretty much have to buy another DJM 45 to get one. And most of my DJM sleeves are yellow. There is one where that's from the CBS year, so that's a later copy. Oh, I went too far. Where is it? No. Yes, that was it. Yeah. So this is my UK Rock and Roll Madonna, and you can see it's a red sleeve. You'll also notice with the DJMs, it doesn't come down to red versus yellow. You'll have different factory sleeves of the 2 different colors, but they also have at the top here, this is sort of like a beveled style cut or fluting. Well, not fluting, sorry. It's a bevel style cut, but then you'll have other DJM's factory sleeves where you have sort of like a straight rectangular cut. And yeah, right there. Which one's that? Step Into Christmas. And I really don't know if there's any sort of chronological pattern or priority to those. I haven't figured that out yet. But if there is, then I'll make sure if I want to get some spare DJM sleeves, I want to make sure that I get sleeves, DJM sleeves that are sort of period appropriate. Yeah, MCA sleeves are easy. You can get some other 45 by a lesser artist for real cheap if you need a generic MCA sleeve. And there are sellers online that will sell just, empty MCA sleeves if you need them. Geffens are a little trickier if you're a Canadian collector. Let's go over here. I used to have so bloody many of these, and now when I need one, I can't find them. I may have to use that. Yeah, I'm going to have to use that. So a lot of just, if an 80s Elton single on Geffen, if it's a Canadian copy and it didn't ship in a picture sleeve, then it would have shipped in one of these generic WIA Canada white sleeves. And however, the American Geffens did not have those kinds of sleeves. Come on. Here we go. Yeah, so Geffen 45s in the States did not have white sleeves like that. They had these sort of solid gray Geffen sleeves. Oh, it's Geffen in black on one side and then on white in the other. That's interesting. I don't have too many of those, but I've managed to get from my all my American Geffens, those solid gray sleeves. So basically, what's my strategy? Well, like I said, I seldom play my 45s because I don't think the sound quality is particularly good. I'll tell you what really piqued my interest, though, as a kid. If you have an MCA copy of To Be Continued, you remember the booklet, right? And the booklet had, at the bottom of each page, they reproduced different picture sleeves from over the years, from around the world. And seeing those as a kid, that really piqued my interest. I realized that there were singles from all eras of Elton's career that were out there to collect. Then there was the Two Rooms book, published in around 92, and the Two Rooms book had some galleries at the back in the discography section that showed the covers and pretty close up too. And I was really, really impressed with a lot of the artwork. So there was that too. So when I began collecting, I didn't really start collecting the singles very seriously until about maybe 10 years ago. And when I started collecting, I decided to actually just get some of the singles from the To Be Continued booklet that I thought had really cool sleeves. And I'll show you two of them. Yeah, here's one. Oh man, I remember getting this one. This was, I don't know, is this a double A side? Because it's Song for Guy on the back, but on the front it's Return to Paradise. And as a kid, I loved this. I love the cover of A Single Man. I love the way that this 45 version of the artwork was cropped so that we're a little bit more close up. I think it looks good. I really, really thought this was a cool looking cover. And so that was one of the first ones I bought. That's German Rocket, Return to Paradise, Song for Guy. And then another one I thought was really cool was also German. Or not. Oh, here we go. So German Rocket, Sartorial Eloquence. That was another one I spotted in the To Be Continued booklet I thought looked really cool. That's a photo of him from the 79 tour in Russia, of course. And I just thought it was a cool cover. So I got that. So that was kind of my strategy for a while. I'll get the ones that I saw in those books when I was a kid. Now I'll take anything, really, although I'm not yet distinguishing by pressing plant, only by label and by territory. I don't think I'll ever get as far as distinguishing by plant. I am interested in unique mixes, like I said before, so, on some of the unis, I think Your Song, the uni issue, Take Me to the Pilot, yeah. These are dedicated mono mixes. Your Song and Take Me to the Pilot. They don't say mono, though. Maybe it was just the promos that were dedicated mono mixes. I know that, yeah, with Leave On, okay, then that's a 459 dedicated mono mix, and then on the flip is Goodbye, dedicated mono mix, and this is a stock copy. So some of these early Uni 45s have dedicated mono mixes on them of certain songs. And so Your Song, Take Me to the Pilot, Leave On, Goodbye, those are dedicated mono mixes. There are some dedicated mono mixes from the 80s that are like for radio stations that were included on promos, like that one? No. I have one for Empty Garden, one for, I guess that's why they call it the blues, but I think they're fold downs, the stereo. I don't think they're dedicated mono mixes. Grow Some Funk of Your Own. Where is it? Certainly the UK and the mainland Europe copies on DJM had an exclusive 7-inch remix of Grow Some Funk of Your Own. And that was different from the album mix. Whereas the North American MCA copies just had the album mix. And is it conspicuously different? I would say yeah. It's not as heavy when you think about it. When you hear it and you compare the two, it's not as heavy, and yet you can hear a lot more what's going on with guitars in that single mix. And that single mix has never been released anywhere else. There are single edits of certain songs, like the 80s, either single edits or, there's a special mix, I think. Well, it doesn't say so on the sleeve, but I know the 7-inch mix of Passengers in the UK was a remix. And that's a Holland pressing. Same thing with Who Wears These Shoes. This is a single edit. Same thing with Heartache All Over the World. The 7-inch mix was slightly different, was actually longer than the album mix, had a sort of an a cappella edit piece tacked on the front, which I think is cool. I know a lot of people don't like this song, but I like this song. Yeah, I'm also fascinated by, songs that were singles but only in minor territories, like White Lady, White Powder, which is my favorite song on 21 at 33, was a single, but so far as I can tell, only in France. So the back is blank. Yeah, with White Man Danger on the flip as a B-side. So this was, again, so far as I know, a France-only single. What else? Yeah, Chloe. I need a sleeve for it, but Chloe was released as a single on Geffen in the United States and Canada. What's on the flip? Tortured. Okay. I think Ball and Chain. Pretty sure. Here we go. Here's Ball and Chain. That was a Geffen only single. Actually, I think that might have been one that was released on Rocket in Australia too. Yeah, I've shown this one before, Blue Avenue. That was a single in Holland only, and I think they were only sold in Holland. I don't think it was like Holland for the rest of Europe like this one was, Whispers. This is another one that was not a single in North America or the UK, but was in mainland Europe, and it's a Dutch copy. It did reasonably well in places like France. I was startled to come across, is this the one? Yeah. This is a Blue Rainbow MCA copy of the one, the single, backed with, I think, it should be Suit of Wolves. Yeah, Suit of Wolves. And there are other Blue Rainbow MCAs, like Runaway Train. And I think there's also one for True Love, with Kiki D from the Duets album. I remember when I found my first copy of Believe 45 picture sleeve. I now have 2 of them, but this is the first one I had. And I got it. I forget the name of the store, but I was downtown Manhattan. It was close to NYU, the NYU's main campus. That I remember. They didn't have much Elton John stuff, but they had this, and I think it was like $3. And I felt like I just won the lottery. It felt great. I also have this limited, I think it was numbered. Yeah, it was a numbered edition. This was All That I'm Allowed, 2004, 2005. I think it was 2005 this came out. From the Peachtree Road. And yeah, that's the second last one I have. And the last one, like I showed earlier, was this one. I don't think there have been any Elton John 45 since this one. Where did I get this? Oh, I got this. Oh, I remember where I got this. I got this. Better Days Records in Louisville, which is one of my favorite stores in the United States. Record stores. Great store. Got that there. I neglected to say earlier, one of the reasons why I'm not going, disc by disc, is because there are, a few of the rarest and most valuable ones I don't actually keep in these bins. I have them stored somewhere else, somewhere even safer than this, just, for security reasons. But I plan to include some of those and some of the ones that I haven't shown you yet in future Grail Stories videos. And I kind of don't want to spoil the surprise. So there's that. But I can show you a few more. I don't think I'd be spoiling too much if I showed you a few more. Oh, this one. Yeah, let's start with this one. This is my Blue Label Phillips Lady Samantha. And there's a story. This will be a Grail Stories video, because there's a really cool story associated with this, where I found it and what I decided to do after I found it. I was in London, and I have some photographs from that afternoon. And but this was like finding gold. This was, I think, summer of 14 I got this. It was my last summer in England anyway, and I found that. So I said earlier, yeah, It's Me That You Need. This is a Norwegian It's Me That You Need, back with Just Like Strange Rain. I love this single. I've always wanted one with one of these sleeves. And this is very much like this sleeve design. I think was conceived for the UK sleeve on DJM, and it ended up being used in a number of different DJM territories, and Norway, Scandinavia, I guess, was one of them. So now some say that this copy of It's Me That You Need is almost kind of like a grail. That's what the disc looks like. I suppose it is, maybe. I think the UK version with the sleeve is by far the bigger grail. There was one that was for Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong, and that's considered a grail. I'm not going to do a grail story video on this one, but here it is. I do have it. It was on Blue Label Philips. It's Me That You Need, back with Just Like Strange Rain, and I think it's one of the strangest 45 sleeves in the Elton John catalog. It's just, that's, Elton's wearing a naughty shirt, and that was kind of like, Carnaby Street on a budget for Elton at the time. So there are some shots of him with this naughty pup, and he's wearing naughty shirts. Anyway, yeah. It's Me That You Need, back with Just Like Strange Rain, and, It's Me That You Need. It's a great song, but it's one of those kind of formulaic, I Love You, I Miss You songs. Just Like Strange Rain, that song, that's the one. And will I be so bold as to say that should have been the A-side? Well, that takes some balls to say that should have been the A-side, but hey, that should have been the A-side. That's a great song. Here's the Japanese copy of It's Me That You Need. It's these aren't hard to find. It's Me That You Need was a massive hit for Elton in Japan, and so copies are not hard to find. And I think this is on DJM, manufactured by Toshiba, but it's on the DJM label. I think I also have, this was kind of a grail, I guess, but I'm not going to do a Grail Stories video on it because it's just a matter of finding it on, online, and it wasn't too expensive. I hit click, and it was mine. This was a single. It's not an Elton and Bernie song. It was from a soundtrack from a 1970 film called The Games, which I've never seen. And Elton agreed to sing the theme song, a song called From Denver to LA. And I don't think there were stock copies of this. I think there were only promotional copies, and they're two different promotional copies. There's one, and they're both white label. There's one where you get the Elton, you get From Denver to LA by Elton on one side. And then on the flip side, you get another song by another artist from the same soundtrack. But this is the version where you get Elton's From Denver to LA on one side, and then and that's stereo. And then on the flip, you get a dedicated mono mix. And that was a great find, From Denver to LA. It sucks. It's a terrible song, but it's great. And I can't believe it's taking me this long to bring it up. You'll notice that they got his name wrong. Vocal by Elton Johns. Yeah, oops. Just like strange rain. Wah, 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 wah. Oh, okay. Okay. That's another one. Band called Argosy. Song called Mr. Boyd, and on the flip is a song called Imagine. Written by, take note, Roger Hodgson, before Supertramp. So what is Argosy? Argosy was a group featuring a pre-Supertramp Roger Hodgson on lead vocals, and Elton on keyboards, and Nigel Olsson on drums, and Caleb Quay on guitars. So it was kind of like a super group. And they recorded just one single, and it was on DJM in the UK, and then Congress picked it up along with Elton's Lady Samantha they recorded it in 1969, and then I don't know when the UK single came out, but it didn't come out here in North America. Well, just in the United States, not in Canada, on the Congress label in early 1970, somewhere early to mid 1970. And so this, I don't know, is it a grail? I don't know. It's not that difficult to find, but it's basically, it's Roger Hodgson, Elton John, Caleb Quaid, Nigel Olsson together. Here we go, okay. Okay, Rocket Man. So there are variant issues, like this is, this had a gatefold sleeve originally. Seriously. Only have one free hand here, so I got to do this carefully. Here's Rocket Man, and the sleeve opened like that. And this was a Garrett Loft House construction. I don't know who did the actual sleeve design, but it was a Garden Lofthouse sleeve anyway. And you can see there were 3 songs on it: Rocket Man, then Back with Holiday Inn and Goodbye. And I believe, I'm pretty sure the gatefold sleeve was the original issue, but then later issues were non-gatefold sleeves. So same tracks, but just a non-gatefold. So I have both. I have the gatefold and the non-gatefold. And that one I got online. This one I got from a fellow collector here in Canada. Gordon, how are you doing? And just to let you know, your gatefold Rocket Man is still in good hands. Okay, yeah, we saw this one earlier, I think. This is the UK only, Rocket only Dear God, and it's a double single. You get Dear God, Tactics, Steal Away Child, Love So Cold, so 2 45s in there. I actually have 2 copies, again, the result of buying in lots. But I remember when I got my first copy of this, I was so excited. Okay, yeah, I think I have another Canadian exclusive. So this is, okay, so you have, I think this is UK Nobody Wins. Should be Rocket. It's either UK or Dutch. And then this is American Geffen. Yeah. And then this is French. Oh, I have that the other way around, don't I? This should be there because it's American. This is the French Rocket, and it was the French language version, Je veux la tendresse, but there was also this Canadian version. Je veux la tendresse was released as a single on Geffen in Canada, I guess to appeal to French Canadian listeners. I think the flip is Fools in Fashion. Yeah, so it's the same B-side, but the A-side is the French language version. I was thrilled to find this. Oh, here's one I got just a couple years ago. Just about every other Geffen copy of the Nikita 45 that I have and that I've seen is Black Label Geffen. This is a Canadian, and it is very early pressing, and it's white label Geffen. And I've noticed that with the Canadian copies of Ice on Fire, the earliest copies, the LP, were actually pressed with white or gray label Geffen labels, and then the later ones were done on black, whereas in the States, I've never seen a white label Geffen Nikita 45, and I've never seen an American white label Geffen LP for Ice on Fire. So, I've showed you the double single for Dear God. This is an amusing one. Again, I got to be careful. I only have one hand to use. This is, again, not in great shape. I didn't pay too much for it. However, what I'm about to show you is hard. It's hard to find copies of this with the gatefold artwork full and intact. This is a double single for Nikita. You open it up, and it's like a pop-up, like that. And you got Elton. I think that's if it's not at Wembley Stadium, it's somewhere on the Breaking Hearts tour, and you've got this sort of pop-up effect, which is really, really cool. These double singles sometimes didn't have gatefold sleeves, but often they did, which is kind of nice. This is the only one that I know of that had a pop-up feature to it. So yeah, that's it. And like I said, you'll see more of this part of my collection on future videos, particularly Grail stories. But that's it for now. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, etc., etc.